Hello and welcome to our game here on Thursday with myself, Shane Stapleton, joined as ever by Carey and Richie Power. Huge amount of hurling coming up this weekend. We're going to have the Munster final, Limerick against Clare. Going to be brilliant in the Leinster final too, Galway against Kilkenny Saturday evening at Croke Park. We're also going to have, as the precursor to that, Antrim against Kerry. Huge amount at stake there. One of the teams is going up to Liam McCarthy next year. Or actually, if it's Kerry, maybe they'll end up in a playoff with Tipperary. And the boys down in the Premier are going to have to pull the hurleys out of the bag again and maybe play that relegation promotion clash. But, the first thing that strikes me about the games coming this weekend is, for Clare, they haven't won a Munster final since 1998, Kieran. That Derry, it was the same last weekend. They hadn't won one since 1998. And, the scenes were unbelievable. What would it be like for Clare this weekend if they beat Limerick?
Well, to be monumental, I'd say, to be fair, they'd be sending out a huge message, and I suppose they'd be the first of the modern teams, really, for want of a better word, to topple Limerick and come up with a solution how to derail them and win it, okay? And I suppose that's probably could be a bit of fantasy land at the minute. These early days, there's no game won or lost on a Thursday or a Friday. Yeah, but I'd imagine from a Clare point of view, it would be massive for them, to be huge, a huge lift from, like, you haven't won the Munster title in, as you said, in so many years. And, but to win it, and not only to win Sunday, but to win it, if they did jump the fence Sunday, look at the run they had in the Munster Championship, where they started and where they finished. So it would be outstanding if they could jump the fence.
Yeah, did you see that, Richie, the other day? I could imagine Clare fans being just the same if they won this title.
Oh, absolutely. It's hard to believe that it's 24 years, 25 going on, and I suppose when you look at Munster with only 5 teams in it, you nearly sometimes expect, all the counties to be winning Munsters every kind of maybe 5-6 years. So for them to have gone so long without a Munster title is massive. And I think, as Kieran said, it will send out a serious statement if they could get over the line Sunday. And you just have to look at the ticket sales gone within seconds and minutes, to see the excitement around it. And it's going to be brilliant. And I'm sure Limerick are going to have a huge crowd there as well, with it being their next door neighbours and that. So I'm really looking forward to Sunday now. I was hoping or trying to get a ticket for the game, but I didn't succeed. But even without a ticket, you'd still nearly love to be around Thurles or in around Thurles just for the atmosphere, because I think it'll be really back to the old days of Munster final days in Thurles on Sunday.
Kieran, would you not sort him out with a ticket?
Do you know what? There's an old saying there, Shane, a silent priest never got a parish. If I was aware of it, of course we get him a ticket. I'm sure, come here, Shane, I'm sure with all the context we'd have, we'd pull one out of the sky for him.
Actually, I got a question in from Donald Farrell on Patreon. He says, can you ask Kieran Carey, 30 seconds left, draw and match, and a 90-yard free to win it. Would he have Gary Kirby or Diarmaid Byrnes to take it, or would he have them play it short himself and go up and score it himself?
How many yards out?
90 yards out.
Oh, Byrnes all day long.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, but if it was 40 or 50, I'd be giving the nod to the other fella.
The younger generation probably don't realise how good Gary Kirby was. I remember being down at a Munster Championship clash between Tip and Limerick was it 96 where you were 10 or 11 behind on Tip?
That's right.
Came back and drew. Like, he was a heartbreaker.
No, in fairness to Gary, and I suppose he wouldn't, and he said this himself recently when he's looking at his own 2 sons, John and Patrick. He mightn't have been blessed with the same gears as his 2 sons have, but he was kind of an unorthodox hurler. But when it comes to frees, the bigger the day, the harder the free, you could say, and he'd nail on certainty. So mentally, he was very tough in the frees. And 9 times out of 10, he nearly always came to the party. Very reliable when it comes to frees. As I said, the bigger the day, the bigger the occasion. And if there's a free 40, 57 yards, 60 yards out, you could be guaranteed, you'd know by Gary the gimp and going up to the ball by his body language. It was straight over the black spot. So he was very reliable when it came to that.
Yeah, is there anyone, Richie, that you would have thought more than anyone else, this lad on the big day, it doesn't faze him and he's going to show up?
God, I suppose the one that sticks out for me is Henry, probably, you know, more so than anyone. And the likes of JJ and Tommy Welch as well. You know, like it was just, it seemed fearless to these guys, you know, that they were there. They were there so much and being through it so much. Like, you know, I look back on, say, 2009 against Tipperary, like that penalty, and Henry standing over, like, you know, like such a big day, you know, 4 in a row probably at stake, and first just like, and he was so cool, calm, and collected standing over, like, you know, just little things like that really stand out. And I think for me, probably Henry's greatest 35 minutes in a Kilkenny jersey in my era was the 2012 All Ireland, the second half against Galway. Like he dragged us out of the trenches that day on his own. Well, I certainly didn't contribute much in the corner anyway, but I just thought Henry that day was like a man possessed. And, you know, for me, him, and as I said, I mentioned there, you know, JJ, Tommy were probably up there as well. So those are the guys you definitely want to be going to war with behind you.
Yeah,
and Shane, I just want to say, you know, and he's dead right, 3 players that he mentioned, you know, they always came, they were always consistent. And, you know, I would have always had a serious high regard for Henry. But when he came back after the knee injury and he produced what he did after that, it just catapulted, for me, into a different league altogether. So I thought he showed serious character and serious toughness to come back from the knee injury, number one, but to deliver the hurling he did afterwards. He just went to a different level for me at that stage.
And Kieran, is there anyone in the modern day game where you say, this lad, you know, I know you love to say the big guns have to show up to the party. Who is the guy that always shows up to you these days?
Yeah, come here, to be fair, the obvious one is Sean Finn, a cornerback. You know, he comes, whether it's a league game or a championship match, he's always there, very consistent, and he's the one player. Now, in fairness, there's another player he probably doesn't get too much mentioning, but this is in around his work rate, and I'm just watching him, you know. Tom Morrissey is another player, believe it or not, that would empty the tank every day he goes out, but you know, he'd always get a few little points, but even the day he doesn't get a point, you know, his work rate is through the roof always and comes across as a very honest player.
Richie, do you think that hurling needs a big weekend here? Because if you go back there a couple of weeks ago, especially the 2 Munster games, you know, Tipperary were terrible, Waterford were terrible. It wasn't a great weekend of hurling. Now, the Kilkenny-Wexford game was close. Dublin-Galway didn't get too many headlines. Like, we need Galway-Kilkenny to be a good game. We need Clare-Limerick to be good, and Antrim-Kerry as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and look, I think they're both set up. Like the 3 games are set up nicely to be crackers. You know, and I suppose after everything that happened in Salt Hill and the little spice of the handshake is going to add a little bit more to Saturday night. Number one, number two, the Joe McDonagh, like as you mentioned there, Carey get over that big win to a playoff against Tipperary, which, as I mentioned, I think it was last week or the week before. I think it's very unfair on Kerry. I think they should just be catapulted into the Lee McCarthy if they win on Saturday evening. And then you have Limerick Clare Sunday. You know, Clare coming off the back of some, I suppose, a fantastic Munster championship, really, you know, from their standards, I suppose, looking at previous years. And I suppose Limerick, you know, haven't had 3 weeks to get injuries right. And I'm sure there'll be a couple of those guys back. You know, that's set up to be a mouth-watering affair, you know. And as I said, like we need a big weekend for hurling. I really, really think we're going to get it as well.
Kieran, Richie has just alluded to the handshake thing that happened between Brian Cody and Henry Shefflin. Do you see them maybe even trying to put this to bed before the game? Just do it, get it done, so everyone will just stop talking about it. Yeah,
I'd say we won't see the repeat of what we saw. I reckon both of them will be probably a lot more manlier this time, and you know, they'll probably learn from the last time, and you know, they want to be seen in the limelight. In around that thing again, and of course the media will, as they always do, make a huge thing of this. But at the end of the day, you know, bottom line for Brian Cody, he's looking for a win. No different to Henry Shefflin is looking for a win Saturday night, and the nuts and bolts really will be in there. The rest of the handshake and all that is duffy circus.
Yeah. I'm just looking at the recent meetings between the two teams. 2022, obviously, we know this year that Galway won by a point. Last in the Leinster final in 2020, Kilkenny won 220 to 24 points by 2. Galway won the 2 previous games before that, and then there was a draw in Leinster final. Actually, the replay went to Thurles. I can't remember whose concert it was. Might have been Taylor Swift or somebody like that a couple of years ago. It was mad. But you're going into this game. Kilkenny are going for 3 in a row, Richie. Are they a team who's playing like a team going for 3 in a row?
At the moment, probably the answer to that is no. And you know, it's, if you had have asked me 3 years ago, Shane, if I think Kilkenny will win the next 3 Leinster finals, I would have said no. You know, because for me personally, I thought that there was a lot of rebuilding to do. You know, with regards to the team, but you know, they've done a fantastic job. You know, I suppose they've changed S&C coach in Kilkenny. They're doing a lot of, you know, work on that aspect of it, and you know, to be going for 3 in a row is a fantastic achievement. You know, I think for this group of players, because as I said, I would have expected, you know, Kilkenny to kind of go back and go through a couple of years of just rebuilding, and I suppose, you know, not to sound, I suppose, cocky or arrogant, but I suppose in Kilkenny, you know, it's not Leinster titles that, you know, the people and the supporters are looking for. You know, it's All Ireland titles, it's All Ireland finals, and we haven't jumped that fence in the last 2 years after winning Leinster. So certainly, you know, Saturday is massive. You know, if you can get over that, you know, you're 70 minutes from a final then, and you know, potentially you'll avoid, you know, the winners of the Munster final obviously on Sunday, whether it be Limerick or Clare, and it sets you up nicely for a semi-final. But you know, it's hard to know where Kilkenny are at. And I said it after the Galway or the Wexford game. I still not sure Brian knows his best 15. You know, and I don't think it's going to be very interesting to see the team tomorrow night for Saturday, to see, you know, does he stick with Wexford? How many changes he makes? Like, he generally makes a lot of changes after a defeat. You know, that's just the way Brian has been over the years. So it's going to be interesting to see. Rumour has it Hugh Lawler should be back. You know, will Pádraig Welch, will, you know, John Donnelly come back into the side? There's talks of maybe Conor Fogarty coming back into the team. So it's interesting, but I do think it needs an injection of something. You know, to get them up to the pace of the game, or the pace of Galway probably on Saturday night. So are they playing like they're going for 3 in a row? No, but can they win 3 in a row? Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm even hearing talk that maybe Mikey Butler picked up an injury in training. That, yeah, like you're saying there, Hugh Lawler probably will come back in as well. What do you make? We'll talk about Limerick changes later on, Kieran, but what do you think in terms of how unsettled Kilkenny are looking? I mean, look at the half-back line the last day. Will Paddy Deegan and Richie Reid play there? Will Pádraig Walsh come in the half-back line? I was actually thinking beforehand that if you had maybe Deegan centre-back and you had Mikey Carey one side and Pádraig Walsh the other side, all of a sudden Kilkenny can really attack you from deep there because they have 2 speed merchants. Yeah,
and you used the word there, unsettled, and you know, and that comes from the line, as exactly what Richie said. You know, they're in a Leinster final, and they still don't know their strongest 15, and ideally that's not the ideal preparation to go into a provincial final. But if you look at the 4 teams that are in it, okay, Limerick will be there a merit, Clare there a merit, Galway there a merit. I suppose you could make a case for Wexford or Dublin or Kilkenny that could have, any of those 3 could have fell into it. So, you know, and then you can touch on Cork in, they're improving. Yeah, and I suppose, yeah, he still has personnel there. And I suppose his big one is nailing the 15, and I suppose utilising the line. Hugh Lawler back now will be a huge advantage. You know, and Deegan, to me, to be fair, was hurling very well there. And I don't know, is it a case of Richie Reid probably more comfortable at 6 rather than 7? So don't know the move, but I'm still of the opinion, if they can come, I'd be the same as Richie. Are they capable of winning 3 in a row? 110%.
And do you think there's any inferiority complex with Galway when it comes to Kilkenny? Now, they've won 3 of the last 4 games, but geez, in that 2020 Leinster final at Croke Park, played with a sweeper. I don't know what it was. It seemed like a real opportunity for them to win that game, but they just didn't perform, Kieran.
No, but you know what? I think the game this year, Kilkenny will have learned an awful lot out of it. Okay, we know who won the game with the controversial decision at the end of it. And I felt that day, you know, that Galway were probably going about 90%, and Kilkenny weren't. So there's still a lot more Kilkenny. So if Kilkenny are to look at any game and to find home Galway, and I suppose to pick their weaknesses, that's the game they will look at. You know, and if anything's going to motivate them, it's going to be that particular game, because you have a total new group. And, you know, I'm really looking forward to Saturday night, because I think both games have. Saturday night has a mouth-watering game. And it'll be very, very interesting, because whatever two teams come out of the weekend, they're putting themselves as serious contenders then for the rest of the remainder of the season.
We're going to bring up the pitch maps now in a second, but if you want to watch the rest of the show, go to patreon.com/OurGame. See the full show at patreon.com/OurGame.